This is Rich Burkett again, your host of the Free Skeptic channel. The title of this video is Objective Reality and Objective Ethics. Okay, first of all, we'll start with objective definitions of objective. Definitions of objective include not subjective, not emotive, not judgmental, dispassionate, impartial, unbiased, neutral, everywhere at all times, universal, and independent of life or human existence, perception, consciousness, or thought. Now, that's not an all-inclusive definition, but those are the main ones. Okay, we talk about objective reality. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Is a quote from the 1910 book Physics by Charles Rydberg Mann and George Ransom Twiss. Earlier versions of this quote were about falling trees on uninhabited islands. Objective reality is the existence of reality independent of life or human existence, perception, consciousness, or thought. One of the previously mentioned definitions of objective. If life or humans became extinct, objective reality would continue to exist. As mentioned in my video, A Better Theory of Epistemology, Knowledge, Belief, and Truth, depending on how narrow or broadly it's defined, existence is 1, physical, real, actual, and causal, and 2, and abstract and conceptual. Objective reality is physical, actual, and causal. It could be conceptualized as an abstraction, idea, or thought too. Okay, objective ethics. Objective ethics has been popularized by Ayn Rand with her philosophy Objectivism, and more recently by Sam Harris, who both believe ethics and morals can be ascertained, construed, deduced, derived, detected, discovered, learned, and or recognized with science and reasoning. Ethics and morals are beliefs. Beliefs require believers. Without believers, there are no beliefs, no ethics, and no morals. I covered beliefs in my video, A Better Theory of Epistemology. Ethics and morals include oughts, shoulds, shalls, and must, and their nots. Ought not, should not, shall not, and must not. Ethics and morals are mostly interpersonal between persons, but could also be intrapersonal by and for oneself. Interpersonal ethics and morals between persons are more agreed among believers and are better candidates for objective ethics than intrapersonal ethics and morals. Ethics and morals are like truths and freedoms. Ethics and morals are better understood as the absence of unethical or immoral actions. Truth is the absence of untruths and falsities. Freedom is the absence of unfreedoms and constraints. Now, I discussed this concept in my video called Freedom, Liberty, and Rights, where there's basically 5 groups of constraints. One group is physical. So freedom can't be the absence of all constraints because, among other things, gravity is unavoidable as a constraint. Unethical and immoral actions are more easily identifiable than ethics and morals, either as actions or as enduring conditions. Oughts and shoulds that are not shalls and musts are less consequential, increasing moral disagreement. Although many oughts and shoulds, shalls, and musts could be conceptualized as objective, I will explore which must-nots are the best candidates for objective ethics. One broad must-not candidate for objective ethics is victimization is immoral. More specifically, victimizations include a person or persons must not intentionally or unjustifiably, 1, cause death of another person, or 2, cause injury, physical trauma, or collide with another person, or 3, take, hold, confine, block, crowd, or enslave another person, or 4, take another person's property, or misrepresent in agreements or transactions with another person. Now, murder, assault, rape, abduction, kidnapping, and stealing and fraud are intentional, unjustified, immoral actions that are emotive and judgmental and are poor candidates for the wording of objective ethics. Justifications are mostly necessities that excuse immoral actions and include consent, coercion, unintention, unforeseeability, authority, and defense of self and others. Consent justifies dueling, which was legal in the past, but has since become illegal in the United States and most Western countries. Includes boxing, mixed martial arts, sex, and internships. When I talk about internships, that's where someone works for free, but they're not enslaved because they're able to quit and leave their internship at any time. Could die, be injured, enslaved, or impregnated. Now, consensual sex is among adults, but legally minors are considered incapable of giving consent because of their age and their lack of experience. And also intoxicated persons are incapable of giving consent because they're suggestible, and so that's also been made illegal, or at least you can be sued for it. Unintentional and unforeseeability justify accidents, trespassing, blocking, and crowding. Now I say unintentional trespassing would be a circumstance where, let's say you're on a public river on a boat, either a boat or a raft. The boat either capsizes or the raft becomes uninflated, and then the people in the boat or raft end up in the water. Now, they could stay in that water and float down to where they could get out of the river on public land, or another piece of private land that doesn't have no trespassing signs. But in most circumstances, if the land that is adjacent to the river has no trespassing signs, it's not immoral to go on the land. Now, the owner of the land might insist that you leave the land, either to go to a public land or another piece of land, private land that doesn't have trespassing signs. Now, blocking would be an instance where, say, one person blocks a door entrance, not the door, it's the door, preventing somebody that's in the room from leaving without having to push their way past the person that's blocking the door. And crowding would be a situation where a group of people decide to intentionally surround another person so that they can't leave without pushing their way past at least one of the persons. Now, unintentional crowding, I've actually experienced this. I went to a protest in Washington, D.C. There was like 500,000 people there, and it got so crowded in places that people had to move the people that are next to them in order to avoid being trampled. And that's an instance of unintentional crowding. That's not immoral. Authority justifies taxes, mandatory fees, regulations, searches, seizures, arrests, trials, jail, imprisonment that would otherwise be considered theft or abduction. Now, whether the taxes and fees and all these other things themselves are moral or immoral is debatable. But the point is that people like law enforcement, police, judges, prison guards have qualified immunity because of their authority in carrying out their duties. Now, you might ask the question, what about war? You could say that war is immoral itself, but the soldiers that engage in war can either be attackers on the authority of the government that tells them it's okay to attack, or defenders, which in case would be self-defense. Necessity includes self-defense, coercion, and other actions that prevent death, bodily harm, and other greater harms. I think self-defense is pretty self-explanatory, but coercion, a circumstance of coercion would be, let's say somebody kidnapped one of your relatives or friends, and in order to release them, they require that you commit what would be otherwise an immoral act in order to effectuate that. And you could say that, okay, that's a necessity. I did that by necessity to prevent a greater harm. Some preceding immoral actions could unjustify justifications. One example is a home invader who claims self-defense after killing or injuring a home's legal occupant. There was actually a criminal case where the home invader claims self-defense in killing or injuring the home's legal occupant. But had he not invaded the home in the first place by proximate cause, he would still be responsible morally and legally for entering someone else's home, even though he was claiming self-defense. Now, a home invader, an innocent home invader could be someone who might be drunk, who lives on a block where almost all the houses look the same, and they accidentally enter the wrong house. Now, that would not be immoral. It'd be an accident, but the question is, would they be able to claim self-defense in injuring the home's occupants? No, I don't think so, that either. Okay, disagreement of what constitutes justification of otherwise immoral acts between places past and present makes them poor candidates for objective ethics. Now, we're talking about places like in different countries that have different cultures and different moral values. In the past, something might be considered not immoral that in the present or later became immoral. I think slavery is one of the examples. That slavery wasn't considered immoral, but what was immoral was the poor treatment of slaves. That is, you couldn't starve your slaves or injure them or kill them. Intentional, unjustified immoral acts are better candidates, like I mentioned before, because I used a non-judgmental and dispassionate words to describe them. Okay, proponents of objective ethics assert moral facts are evidence of objective ethics. Facts are true propositional assertions. Propositional assertions are a relationship between something or things and their qualities, including their attributes, characteristics, traits, category, quantity, among others, and have a truth value of true, false, undetermined, or undeterminable. back to victimization is immoral. Immoral is a quality of victimization. The words victimization and immoral alone have no truth value. The verb is between victimization and immoral makes victimization is immoral a propositional assertion that has a truth value. Alternatively stated, victimizers must not victimize victims, where must not victimize is the verb phrase. If objective ethics and morals exist, then at least some ethics and morals could be stated objectively. Some objective ethics exist. Exist is the verb, and some is the quantitative quality of objective ethics. If objective ethics is defined as dispassionate or unbiased, then it could be worded to be objective. However, if the definition of objective is everywhere, past, present, and future, or everywhere eternally, or omnipresent, omnitemporal, then its truth value could be undeterminable. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.